San Antonio's watering rules allows daily watering with drip irrigation in drought. Now, drip can conserve water, but overscheduling has recently become a challenge. I'm Sasha Codet here with Karen Guz, our Vice President of Conservation, to tell us more about the possible change to rules related to drip. Karen, so how does drip conserve water and what kind of issues are we seeing?
Well, let's start with what's good about drip and how it can be a really efficient way to plan and operate irrigation. I've got a sample of drip here that I'm going to try to hold up to the camera. This is an example of drip. Sometimes it's a different color, but this is a tube that would be laying on the ground, and there's a little emitter here that puts out water. Now, this is instead of a pop-up spray that sprays the water into the air. So you're eliminating a lot of evaporative loss from not spraying it in the air. The other advantage is that you can thoughtfully design it. If you're familiar with where the root zone is of your plants, you can make sure that those emitters are located right at that root zone, and then you could even cover it with mulch to further decrease evaporation. So all this is great, but some misconceptions about drip. Most drip, like the kind I held up, applies water at the same rate as spray. I mentioned it can have less evaporative loss and be designed really well, but the actual rate per hour, the gallons per hour that it puts out, is pretty much the same as spray. And yet there's this strange thing in the rules today that people can run their drip irrigation 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. Wow. Now, not everybody's doing that. I don't think many sites are using all 7 days, but we're seeing a lot of properties that are watering 3, 4 days a week with their drip, and it's using as much as spray irrigation every time. So it's really not fair. We are basically allocating more water to those who invested in putting in drip than we are to those who are using spray. And it's just too much. We can't afford that during droughts anymore with our growing population. So what we're asking for is let's put the drip on the same schedule as spray since it applies water at the same rate.
And our current watering rules do allow for variances in certain situations, like a new landscape variance or a large property variance.
Yeah, so if there's new construction happening, there's a 5-week variance that people can get to get their new plants established. But there's also a variance if you have a really large property, like a big shopping mall or a huge business campus, and that 8-hour window is just not enough time to water everything once. And so when that happens, they can get variance. They have to be really clear this and have signs. This part of our landscape's watered this day. This part's watering this day. Now, some properties, instead of getting a variance, they switched a lot of their zones to drip so they could run them on a different day. Now they're saying, wait a minute, I got to run it all in the same day in 8 hours. I can't do that. So we're reminding them that they qualify for a variance. So they can run some things on one day, some things on another, but still all 1 day a week, which is the spirit of the rules.
And there would be a variance to allow trees to become established too, correct?
Yeah, so that 5-week variance I mentioned is generally sufficient for establishing turf grass and some other perennial plants that are appropriate to our area. But trees are interesting, they may need a little longer start in life. They typically, if there's an irrigation system, there are these interesting devices called bubblers that shoot out a little water at the root ball. They only run for a couple minutes. And it may be that 5 weeks isn't quite long enough in the summer, especially to give those trees a good start in life. So we would probably offer for the tree zones a longer grow-in variance that would give them more than 1 day a week. Now, you might be thinking, why? Well, it's because it's a temporary thing with trees. And trees offer so many benefits to the ecosystem. Of course, there's shade that if you've been in the summer in San Antonio, you seek out all the time. But also those trees are a real bargain on water later because they just don't need a lot of supplemental water once they're established.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have had questions about folks who may be using a drip irrigation system on their vegetable garden at home. And there would be a variance for that too.
Yeah, so home vegetable gardens are, of course, a lot of fun and healthful, and they're usually pretty small. Drip irrigation is a great way to get them to water the plants. And so if people have a little drip irrigation system, they could apply for a variance documenting that it's not very big and what they're trying to do, and they could get a reasonable variance because it's really tiny amount of water on these little vegetable gardens.
And another proposal is to help ensure that newly installed irrigation systems are well designed and well built. Could you tell us more about that proposal?
Yeah, so it's something people may not know about Texas is that we have one of the strongest irrigation licensing and standards programs in the United States. In order to do irrigation, you have to go through a rigorous course and pass a test that is not easy. And then there are a lot of standards to make sure irrigation is done right so that the water is applied efficiently. Like many things, though, if nobody's looking, sometimes all the rules aren't followed. And we are seeing, unfortunately, that some of our new homeowners are not getting the benefits of those rules. And sometimes, if the irrigation is not what it should be, it will use 20% more water every time it's run forever. Really hard to fix once it's there. So we are at SAW recognizing the value of that 20% extra water that we want to get back for our community. And we're going to take on the burden of getting a look at those plans for the irrigation that are already required and make sure that they're following all of the existing rules the state of Texas has. This will be a huge boon to people who are buying a new house that has the irrigation because they're going to get what they were hoping they paid for.
Well, thanks, Karen, for this quick rundown on this proposal. And folks can learn more about our other proposals at wateringrules.com. And we'd like to hear your thoughts, so please go ahead and complete the survey while you're there as well. Thank you very much.